What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1, Future Days. So since this is the beginning of the season, I figured I'd give you a quick history lesson. I love these games. Like, I'm a capital G gamer, especially when it comes to The Last of Us. And I've probably put 2,000 hours between the two games. I replayed them a million times. I love this story. So I'm really excited about watching part 2 unfold on screen. Just a bit of forewarning, I am going to approach this from the perspective of someone who played the game. So I'm going to be talking about upcoming spoilers and things and seeing how they compare. So I'll do that for all the videos that I do for this season. Honestly, I think I was more excited to see the second part adapted to the show versus the first part. They did a good job. They proved themselves in the first season. But there's just something about the vibe of the second game. I think the score has a lot to do with it, and we'll talk about that. Gustavo Santaolalla is back, and he's killing it again. We even get a cool cameo at the church dance. I thought this episode was a great start to the season. They killed it, pretty much. Craig Mazin directed this one, and, we've learned from the first season and everything else that he's like a diehard fan, too, of the material. So it was pretty cool to see him start to adapt the second. They definitely added a lot that we don't see in the game. And, you've heard, I'm sure, Neil and Craig talk about in some of their interviews in the podcast and stuff like that, what goes into the choices when you're adapting something to the screen as opposed to an interactive medium. And I feel like they did a pretty good job, introducing Gale and the whole therapy session. There's an empathy that comes with playing a character. So introducing these other ways into the minds of the characters, like the therapy sessions for Joel, and it just kind of gives us this different avenue to dig into their brains and understand their motivations and stuff like that. So I thought it was a cool addition for sure. I'm really, really liking Caitlin Dever as Abby. We only get to see her for 5 minutes, I think, in the entire episode. But I don't know. She just sells it for me. Her rage, and there's more to it than that, though. There's more under the surface besides the rage they showed us. And it just goes to show how good of an actress she is. But I'm excited to see more of her in the next episode and all of that. 2 more casting highlights that we get this season, for me at least, are Young Mazzino as Jesse and Isabella Merced as Dina. She lights up the screen every time she's on. She's so charismatic, and what Shannon Woodward did as Dina in the game was great and everything else. And you can tell she kind of built off of that for her version of the character. But yeah, she just oozes charisma. It's pretty cool. She does a really good job. And we've only seen her in 1 episode so far, but I have a feeling she's going to be a lot of fun to watch as the season goes on. And as things get darker, inevitably, it'll be interesting to see how she interprets the relationship kind of deteriorating with Ellie and everything else that comes with that. What's cool, too, is, she was in Alien Romulus, and Fede Alvarez, the writer-director of that movie, he had said in an interview or something like that I had heard that he was playing The Last of Us Part 2 while he was writing that movie. And you can kind of see it there. It's the colony that they're from, the mining colony, is called Jackson. And the main character, Rain, even has the same hairdo as Ellie in The Last of Us Part 2 throughout all of the Seattle sections, which was, you can just see the influence there, which is pretty cool. I'm really starting to think that they're going to take a different approach of how Joel and Abby end up connecting. Instead of going to the ski lodge and the ski resort and all that stuff, I think Neil talked once about how they had a different idea for how they would connect. And it would be that Abby's group would kind of infiltrate Jackson and become part of the community and do some questioning and find out who Joel was and if he was there at all these kinds of things. So I'm wondering if they're going to take that idea and adapt that to this version of the story. So maybe when the Horde comes that we've seen in all the trailers and stuff, there could be 2 different versions of it. The Horde comes, and then so Abby's group takes advantage of that and corners Joel and, goes golfing. Or either maybe the whole ski lodge thing still happens and Joel's out on patrol or something like that when the Horde comes. And so they still connect that way. And everyone's distracted in Jackson. Tommy, obviously we see with the flamethrower and the bloater and all that stuff. So maybe while everyone's over there dealing with the Horde, which is obviously not in the game, Maybe that's when the whole thing takes place at the ski lodge. So could go either way. But I bet you I'm right about that one. We'll see though. I also dug some of the reorganization of what in the game were flashback scenes that we get way later in the story. And so we have, Ellie and Tommy, and they're sniping the infected, on the hill, all that kind of stuff. There's a few different ones that I've noticed too, but I'm sure we'll see a lot more of that as the story goes on. But yeah, it was a cool approach to the whole thing. Kind of kept me on my toes, kept it interesting for me as someone who knows the story of the game, backwards and forwards. So yeah, I'm excited to see what more they do with that. Like I said before, I love all the casting on the show. They did a really good job. Bella Ramsey as Ellie doesn't always do it for me. I know there's both perspectives on her. Like some people love her as Ellie. Some people, they're just not jiving with her. She does a really good job. There's just something about some of her line deliveries, the way she carries herself. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to revisit that as the season goes on. But yeah, she doesn't always kind of do it for me, but maybe that'll change, especially as her rage kicks in and as she's pursuing, justice. I really liked the whole, there's consequences to the expansion in Jackson. Neil and Craig talked about that in the podcast, and I noticed it before they brought it up, but they kind of dove deeper on that. And, I agree with Joel's perspective of you kind of got to look out for you and yours before you can take on the responsibility of growing your tribe, essentially. Like he makes the comment about, if your lifeboat's taking on water or something along those lines, you can't bring more people in. Kind of reminds me of the pamphlet on the airplane where it says, put your mask on before you help someone else. You're not very much help if you're dead. So take care of yourself so that you can help others. I don't know. I just agreed with his perspective on that, but I'm sure there's different sides that you could take. But the whole idea of their expansion, that the consequences of Jackson growing to take in more refugees, uncovered this pipe. It's got all the roots in it. We discover at the end of the episode that the mycelium, the fungal mycelium, the cordyceps is growing in it. Obvious that based on the trailer footage and that it's gonna, we have this whole hive mind thing that wasn't in the games. It's obvious that it's going to lead the horde to them. So it's kind of interesting that expansion has, there's all these knock-on effects. That expansion is going to cause Joel to die. It's going to cause the horde to come and kill a bunch of people in Jackson. It just goes to show that there's consequences to everything you do. Whether they're good or bad, there's always a line of events that take place after one choice, the butterfly effect, more or less, right? When Joel's in his therapy sessions and, Catherine O'Hara's amazing as Gale, and she's kind of digging. We learn more about her husband, Eugene, who's obviously super expanded on from the games. We don't even meet him. We just hear about him and find his weed farm. I'm excited to see what they do with him. We learn that Joel killed him and that Gale said it's justified. I'm guessing we know that he's a Firefly, so he probably found something out about Ellie or about what Joel did, and either or both. And so he ends up killing him, we have that one shot in the trailer, I think, before the season started, where he's got, he's pointing the gun at the back of his head. And it's probably going to be Joel tells everybody that he got bit, so he had to put him down kind of thing. But yeah, I'm excited to see that conflict between Gale and Joel unfold, especially as she learns more, as she digs deeper. It's probably going to come out one way or another. So that's going to be an interesting series of events for sure. I loved hearing Joel's theme, the one from the beginning of the game. When you're riding the horse down into Jackson. God, I love that game. But you hear it here right when he says, I saved her, which is kind of reinforces the idea that it's Joel's theme. So yeah, I just like the way they're bringing the music into the show from the game. Yeah, God, I love this music. It's so good. The score to that game is brilliant. Another one is Abby's theme. It plays at a different point in this episode. I can't remember exactly when it is, but I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. Another favorite song of mine from the score from the game. I love that they incorporated it in the show. It plays at a different point. I think it's in one of Abby's 3 days in Seattle. Can't remember exactly where, but it plays after Ellie kind of publicly shames Joel after he pushes Seth down after that whole interaction and at the dance. And that song came on, and I was just like, yeah, I love this music. It's so good. It's just so cool that all these new people that don't play games or haven't played that game get to experience this great music, the great story, the great characters, all of it. It's just the Infected, like how unique they are in the world of, zombies. They're not zombies, but that kind of genre. I'm just so excited for everybody to take all this in, that I get to share it with my wife or share it with my family or my friends. It's just so cool. I've preached about this game for years, in the first one before that. And, not everyone wants to watch you play a game or watch cutscenes on YouTube. So it's just so cool to share that with everybody. I'm not even a part of it, but to be able to talk about it with other people and me on that level and kind of bond over it. And it's just so cool. I love this. It's awesome. I also liked how they kind of hinted at Ellie's brash impatience when they're going into the grocery store, which was cool that they had all the same branding for that market and they had the truck, up against the store and all that stuff that they climb up. But Dina's and Ellie are listening for how many infected are inside. And Ellie jumps to, 2-on-1, let's go. And then Dina says, wait. And then she listens and they hear a second clicker. I think they're both clickers. And it's like a nice foreshadowing for all of Ellie's bad decision-making that's to come. Dina is definitely the smart one. Ellie's the brawn, Dina's the brains, that's for sure. Another thing I really dug was that the flashlights, the backpack flashlights, are held on by magnets instead of, I guess they don't really come off in the game. They just kind of are attached. But I don't know. I just love little production design elements like that. Like, it makes a lot of sense. They just have like duct tape around the magnet and it just clips on there. I don't know how strong it would really hold it there, but whatever, it works. I just thought that was a cool little detail. I'm also really liking how they're introducing stalkers into the story. They're adding a lot of things this season, like spores and all, I'm sure there's more to come. I wonder if we'll see, the Rat King will definitely be next season, but I wonder if we'll see Shamblers this season. That would be pretty cool. It's just cool to how they're having the fungus adapt. They talked about that in the podcast as well. Adapt to, their prey, essentially. And so the humans will have to adapt, and it just builds the tension, it builds the stakes, and it fits TV better, that the stakes are kind of increasing each season. It kind of just makes sense in this context. One more song favorite of mine is when Ellie's cutting the bite mark she gets from the stalker. And I think it originally plays when Dina and Ellie are talking to Maria and they end up leaving for Seattle. I might be wrong about that, but yeah, I love that song too. There was like 3 of my favorites in this episode, so that was cool to see. And then, it was just awesome to see Gustavo Santaolalla have his cameo at the dance. They kind of gave him his moment to shine there. I think he had a mandolin or something. And that dude's a genius. He makes some of the best music. Like, there's no game or movie or TV show, in my opinion, that like has that. It's got so much emotion in it, and it's so versatile, and it's so Americana and unique. Just there's something really special about that man's writing, especially for this franchise. It's amazing. But I'm looking forward to next week, seeing how this season plays out. Sucks that it's only 7 episodes, but is what it is. I trust their judgment. It was a good episode. But I think that'll do it for this week. I know your time's valuable, so I appreciate you spending it with me. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.